Okay, calm down. You got rivers, man. You got rivers, man. Okay, calm down.
Hello and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. We have a great show for you today. It is jam-packed with amazing guests and segments. We have actually 3 segments on today's show, which is very exciting. Of course, before we start, please do give this a thumbs up. That's a great way to support the show and get more people to watch it. And as you'll see from tonight's show, these are very important voices that we definitely want to elevate. So just give it a thumbs up. And as Brad just put on the screen, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. Also share it and subscribe. And to subscribe, you press subscribe and then you hit the bell. And of course, become, if you can, Patreon supporters at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Someone asked if this was live. It is indeed live. So you are in luck. You're going to get a live show. And let us just, again, bring on, not again, let me just bring on our first guests. We are very excited to have them. 2 of them are making their first appearances ever on the Katie Halper Show. The first guest, though, who I'm going to bring on, and then, by the way, then after that, we're going to bring on a guest to talk about Chuck Schumer and Iran. And after that, we're going to play an interview with 3 of the organizers of the First Jewish Anti-Zionist Congress. But for this segment, which is all about the March to Gaza, we're so excited to be bringing back onto the show Tara Alami, who is an organizer with the Palestinian Feminist Collective. We're also bringing on Saif Abukeshek, who is a Palestinian activist based in Barcelona. He has been involved in organizing Palestinian movements in Europe for the past 20 years. He tirelessly advances Palestinian rights and amplifies the cause on the global stage. He serves as the chairman of the Global Coalition Against the Occupation in Palestine and represents the IAC, which is the Inter-Syndical Alternative of Catalonia. And last but not least, Melanie Schweizer is a German lawyer and former servant to the federal ministry, where she was fired for speaking out over Gaza. And she's also a member of the international collective of the Global March to Gaza. So welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having us.
Of course.
Thanks for having us, Katie.
So we're going to get into this very exciting March to Gaza. But first, I want to ask each of you what your relationship to Palestine is and what your relationship to this issue is. We could go, yes, Saif, sure. We'll go clock this way. So Saif, Melanie, and then Tara. Is that okay?
Okay. Well, I am Palestinian. I have been living in Spain for the last 24 years, but the only thing that is consistent in my life is Palestine. So.
And where in Palestine are you from?
My family, we are originally from Jaffa, so we are refugees. I was born in a refugee camp in the city of Nablus in Northwest Bank.
Thank you. What about you, Melanie?
Well, I'm a lawyer, and I'm specialized in human rights, international private and public law, and human rights have always been on the core of my professional education in life, basically. And I guess what has happened the last 2 years, almost 19-20 months, is for me it's shocking on so many levels and unbelievable that this is possible in our world. And yeah, I'm really speechless about the barbaric human slaughter that we see on a daily basis on our phones, about the gaslighting that we get from our governments, about this whole horrific situation that we have to live in. And you know, especially for me with my German history of the atrocious history of the Holocaust that we learned never again. And apparently we thought, you know, that we have learned of our history, which is genocides, not only the Holocaust, but also the genocide in Namibia. And to know all that, but then see Germany act in this way and support Israel without any constraints and delivering this amount of weapons and all the rhetorics and politics aligned to that is simply, for me, it's unacceptable. And And this also has reached a point where we cannot continue our lives anymore as they are, while we see this live stream genocide, dehumanization, and complete humiliation of the Palestinians. And we also have to recognize that our governments are not going to do what is right legally and morally. So
Yeah. And Tara, what about you?
I'm Palestinian as well, actually, partially from occupied Jaffa, like Saif, and then the other side from Al-Quds, from Jerusalem. My family was also exiled in 1948 to Jordan, and so that's where I grew up. And right now I'm based in Georgia, in Montreal.
Oh, great. And, you know, I have questions about the march, but as some people in the comments are saying, there are people on this flotilla, on this boat, are facing a kind of crisis right now. I'm wondering if we should use right now to amplify what's happening. And then we can kind of get into the march. Is that okay? Just because time is kind of the essence, right? So I'm just going to set up, we're going to shift to the segment on what's happening right now at sea. As people probably know, right now as we speak, they may not know, but 12 people, including the actor Liam Cunningham, climate activist Greta Thunberg, and Brazilian activist Thiago Avila, are aboard the Madeleine, sailing to break the blockade of Gaza. And before we show you what's happening there, just some background. So Lindsey Graham thought it would be funny to tweet about Greta and the boat. And here's a video with Greta in which Code Pink's Medea Benjamin breaks down what is happening, what Lindsey Graham did. And then we're going to get to what's happening now.
International institutions, our government, and the international community in itself fails to uphold any human decency and leaves us with nothing but impunity for those responsible for ecocide and genocide, then it falls on us to be the adults in the room.
Did you see the disgusting tweet that Senator Lindsey Graham put out? It was a picture of the Madeleine, the boat that's trying to get to Gaza with food and medicines. And he said, "I hope Greta and her friends can swim." He was referring to Greta Thunberg, who was on the boat with 9 other courageous, unarmed humanitarians. So Lindsey Graham is basically saying that he hopes Israel will do what it has done in the past, which is attack ships that are trying to help the besieged population of Gaza. Lindsey Graham, let's not forget, is somebody who has taken over $1 million from the pro-Israel lobby. Lindsey Graham is a twisted and sick man whose legacy will be supporting mass slaughter and starvation. Greta Thunberg and her friends are heroes, and the whole world knows it. Shame on you, Senator Graham.
And of course, I'm bringing this up. This issue is much bigger than just Greta Thunberg and much bigger than Lindsey Graham's tweets. But we are going to talk about this because what they're doing right now on this Gaza flotilla is part of the resistance that the three of you are involved in with the March to Gaza. So I just want to clarify that Medea Benjamin, she referred to Israel's history of attacks. So one of the things that makes Lindsey Graham's already despicable joke all the more despicable is the fact that in 2010, people aboard the Mavi Marmara boat were trying to reach Gaza to break the siege, and the IDF rappelled onto the boat and killed 9 unarmed activists. They just totally executed these people extrajudicially. Sorry, what's the word, Melanie? Extrajudicially.
Extrajudicially, yes.
Okay, thank you. Extrajudicially, and this is my first language. It's her second one, and it's shameful that she's.
That's legal language.
Yeah, legally, yeah. But they just killed people. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember where you were, and Tara, you may be too young, but I remember watching that happening, and it was unbelievable. Just literally going onto the boat and killing people, and they faced total impunity, not surprisingly. And then more recently, there was another attack on another boat. The boat was called the Conscience, which was kind of a perfect metaphor that Israel is literally trying to kill the conscience of the world. And here's Greta Thunberg recalling what happened. And this was just a month ago on another boat that was part of this flotilla. So let's take a listen.
Hello, I am currently standing on the Madeleine, the ship that on Sunday, June first will attempt to again sail towards Gaza and to try to break the siege and open up a humanitarian corridor by delivering aid like food and medical supplies. The last time we attempted this, about a month ago, the boat Conscience that we were about to board, just a couple of hours before we were planning to board and set sail, it got bombed twice, and all evidence suggests that it was Israel who did it.
Oh my God.
So now we are here in Catania, outside of Sicily, to try to continue our mission to try again. Because currently we are watching a systematic starvation of 2 million people, a live stream genocide, and the world's silence is deadly. That is why we have to keep trying everything we can, even if the odds are against us, to try to protest and do everything we can to stand against Israel's atrocities and war crimes, and to support and stand in solidarity with the people of Palestine. So keep your eyes on deck, continue flooding the streets, organize, boycott, and do everything in your power to stand for Palestine.
And let's take a look, because there's a pretty scary update that we got from Greta and Thiago Avila, who, by the way, we interviewed. We were privileged to interview him on the other podcast that I co-host, Useful Idiots. He came on with Huwaida, who's also working on this flotilla. And there you have a scary update, because, again, they were attacked by a drone last month, and it looks like there may be another one now. So let's take a look at this.
Hey everyone, this is Thiago Avila. I'm here on board the Madeleine. We are on our mission to break the siege of Gaza. This is the third night, and there's a drone on top of our ship. We need your support right now, right now. Please tell everyone, demand a safe passage. If this is an attack, we need your support right now. Hello everyone, we are reporting here from the Madeleine. We are right now at 80 kilometers from Greek lands and 68 kilometers from Greek territorial waters. What happened is that we just spotted a drone, and we confirmed it is a drone, but we just lost visual with it. It could have either turned back or turned off the lights. We have our safety procedures here, and it demands us to go get all of our life jackets. We prepare to alert level at the maximum, especially if it's approaching us, and we sound the alarm for you. Now we count on all of you to share what's going on here, and to please let the world know that we are 80 kilometers from Greece, and we need your help. That's it. Please send this distress signal to everyone. We need your support right now.
So I don't actually know what that means in terms of wanting a distress symbol, the signal. Does anyone know what that means? What we can do? I guess retweet these things. And anyone who's in Europe.
Spread as much as we can, raise awareness about it.
Right. Keep eyes on this, so at least they know that people are watching them.
Yeah.
And so what are your thoughts on this this flotilla and Israel's response to it? And how do you see it kind of fitting into the march on Gaza, which people are very curious about and want to know when that starts?
Well, I was just last weekend with the crew in Catania, preparing for Madeleine to depart, and it was really emotive to see also many Italians coming to send their best wishes and small gift to children of Gaza, having kids making draws, and it's part of what we are trying to do as a global movement, together with the flotilla, with Global March to Gaza, with the Sumud convoy from Tunis crossing North Africa, with many countries joining together. We have to stand where our leaders are failing. I mean, they have a duty to protect people, to protect rights and values, and they are doing tremendous job at that. They are just waiting for Gaza to burn. There is nothing that they are doing, just witnessing people are getting killed. Genocide is committed during 24 hours for the past 20 months, and there is no action on their side. So we started talking to people about the possibility of civilians, of civil society, individuals, organizations, unions, just coming together. And then we realized that there are other actions in place, such as the flotilla, such as the smooth convoy, and there is no reason for us not to work together through sea, land, and air to try to break the siege and stop genocide. So we will continue doing this effort. Many people ask, what do you expect from this? And we cannot, predict the future, but we know what we can do now, and we will keep trying until we achieve it. So, yeah.
And Tara, what is your role in this march, and what else do you want people to know about it? And tell us about the feminist Palestinian collective that you're part of.
Yeah, so I'm a member of the Palestinian Feminist Collective, which is sending a delegation to the march to Gaza in Egypt, along with other US and North America-based organizations that have also expressed, the desire to join the march, like the Palestinian Youth Movement. Essentially, our position and our role is that we refuse to sit idly by as we watch our people being subject to an extermination campaign using our tax dollars. Over the past 2 years, what has become clearer than ever is that the international system of human rights, or the rhetoric of human rights, sets only rhetorical red lines that keep time and time again being crossed by the Zionist state, by Israel, and of course its sponsors, the United States, Canada, where I live, and the European Union, and other allies across the world. What's been clear also over the past 2 years is that globally, people across the world have filled the streets, have organized campaigns, have targeted all sorts of institutions and corporations, from universities to logistics corporations like Maersk, which I'm sure everyone has heard of, the Mask Off Maersk campaign, targeting the shipment of weapons of mass destruction, the shipment of killing machines across the oceans and seas to be used by the Israeli occupation forces on our people. And what has been clear through these past 2 years is that with this impunity that we are watching being granted to the Israeli occupation forces, the Israeli state, the US, and all the other sponsors, on the other side, there has been a growing popular mass movement across the world that has expressed refusal to be complicit in this genocide, and to be silent, because really there is no silent participant in genocide, or no silent observer of genocide. You are either against it and doing something against it, or you are watching and you are passive and therefore allowing it to happen. And so we're joining the march, we're joining this effort. We are also going to be bringing with us as many materials as possible to be sent through the aid convoy, including feminine hygiene products and baby formula. I'm sure everyone has also seen over the past 2 weeks, there have been headlines saying that tens of thousands of Palestinian babies are at risk of starving to death overnight. And I want to emphasize that this is a man-made famine. This is starvation being used as a weapon of war, and this is a line that we the people who have the power will not allow to be crossed. And so, despite corporate media's attempt to minimize the extent of the movement worldwide, globally, from Europe to North America to South America to Australia, and even across the Arab region, where protests have been suppressed in Jordan, for example, there's overwhelming support for the global community, and thousands of people are planning on joining the March to Gaza to attempt to break the siege on Gaza, and to attempt to stop this genocide by the power that we have as individuals, as community members, and organizations.
Yeah, and it's really important what you just said. This is not a humanitarian disaster in a man-made sense. It is starvation used as a weapon of war. It's war crimes. It's policy decisions that are being made by Israel and supported by the West. And then you hear these Israel apologists being like, Well, why is it Israel's job to feed the people? Well, first of all, I mean, you can speak to this, Melanie, because it actually is. When you're occupying people, you have a legal obligation, but that's not even what people are asking for. Right now, they're demanding that people just be allowed to bring in aid, bring that in, and Israel is blocking it. So like there are just so many levels of dishonesty and cruelty and really like sadism. Melanie, what can you add to this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, it's also what we are being told and taught, right? So no one ever speaks about that. Why is Israel really able to cut off humanitarian goods? You know, I don't want to call them aid because it's not. It's the basic needs that people have, and there are thousands of trucks standing outside. Why is Israel controlling the Egyptian border? You know, I mean, and of course the whole of Gaza. So it's this is a totally clear situation of an occupation, which the International Court of Justice rendered last year in its advisory opinion as illegal, and as occupation. Also, the Gaza Strip, where many people always say no, but it's not occupied. Yes, it is occupied, very much so. And Israel dictates what gets in and what gets out, and that's the situation that we're seeing. And so is the rest of Palestine. It's a decades-long ethnical cleansing campaign, and maybe a slow genocide before, but now it's just accelerating, and it's not even only allowed by the Western governments. It's actually fueled by them and made possible by them. Nothing of that would be possible if it weren't for the United States and for Germany, for their unwavering support of what is going on. This situation is appealing on all levels, and it's simply unacceptable. And I really have to say, you know, it's going on for so long. And when you said before with the Freedom Flotilla in 2010, I don't even know about that incident. I mean, sure, I was younger then, but I was always interested in human rights and international news, right? But for me, it became, I mean, maybe also when you were talking about the connection to Palestine. When I went to visit Palestine in 2022, I was so completely shocked and horrified about what I saw and about what I have never been informed in Germany. We don't have the news about that. We don't have information at all about the apartheid system, about the humiliation, about the oppression, about how people could do that to people, what they are doing to the Palestinians. And what we're seeing now is pretty much, it looks like the end phase of it, right? And that's also what they're saying. So Israeli officials keep like just really spitting one genocidal statement after the other. You know, they're not hiding anything. They're saying they will destroy everything. They will kill everyone. No civilian is innocent. This is all genocidal language from the playbook. And our politicians have the audacity in our media to cover that up and to give it legitimacy. And this is completely insane. And what we're seeing now with the Freedom Flotilla is also like psychological warfare, right? That they are sending over drones and everything, and they have no problem attacking it because Israel knows that no matter what they do, they act with impunity. No one will hold them accountable. That's what they have learned, and that's how they are acting. So I think our aim with this global march is to really showcase to the whole world, basically, but also to the Palestinians, that this is not in our name. We are not our governments, and there are thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands, millions of people globally who really cannot watch this anymore because it's making us all mentally and physically sick, and it's also dehumanizing us because we are seeing children torn into pieces for 20 months and governments that tell us that this is apparently justified when it's not justified legally. This is not justified on no merit.
Right. And so tell us more about this march, where people can sign up, also what the kind of the route will be, when you're meeting where.
We arrived to Cairo on the 12th of June. Our plan is to stay for the night and then on the 13th early morning to drive by buses until we arrive to Al Arish. And from there, we start marching for 3 days until we arrive to Rafah. And then we plan to camp there for a few days more. During those days, we will be making our message heard, organize workshops also because this is just one step of the work that we want to continue doing after Rafah. Try to reach out to politicians, try to make also organize parallel activities in different countries at the same time for these actions to be not only globally represented in the march. I mean, we just had our meeting a couple of hours ago, and we have 54 countries represented in the march. So so many people are coming from different locations, because as Melanie and Tara said, we have to stand for this. We can't just keep watching what they are doing. People can go to our website at marchtogaza.net, where we have added a list of countries, and depending where they are living or the nationality they have, they can just click on that country, and it will take them directly to a Telegram group where we are organizing. We are very close to close for the registration process to end, because also we need some time to make sure that all the logistics are in place. I mean, the first priority for us is the safety of the people that are joining the march. Having said that, take in consideration that Israel has no respect for anything or anyone. They just, I mean, what mentioned earlier by Melanie, bombing a ship in the international water while everybody's watching, and there are no consequences. So, but we cannot keep this going on, because it is challenging our own beliefs. It's challenging our own humanity and the values we stand for. What's going to become of us when we see all this death, destruction, bombing, and genocide committed on daily basis, broadcasted live, like you are watching a reality TV show, and we are just sitting around and not doing anything about it. And it's not enough anymore with going to the streets and protests. It is part of the work. We have to learn how we can, go to the extra mile and take it a step further. And it's very important also for our leaders to understand that we are willing to go as far as we can to stop this. And it is on them, anything that would happen to us, because people just keep asking, what about the risks? What might face, Israel might shoot or bomb. Well, it is on our leaders. Their failure is making us taking this step. We are doing this because they are not doing what they should do. And if anything happens to any of us in this march, they are the ones who are responsible, and they will have to deal with that. People are contacting us on daily basis. People want to reach. People in Gaza are aware of what we are trying to do, and we keep receiving messages from, like, at least if we don't manage to achieve any of our goals, just for the people of Gaza to see that we are willing to cross continents and oceans and lands to be there with them, to understand that they are not alone, because they are being left alone by all those states and governments that they just lecture us about the human rights and treat other nations as third world countries who have no understanding of values, they have no culture. And then you look at them trying to justify a genocide. How would you justify a genocide? How would you explain? How would they look in the eyes of their grandsons and daughters in the future, asking them, how did you allow this to happen in your day? What did you do about this? Because we are going to be asked these questions, because generations and generations in Germany are being asked about what have they done and how did they allow the Holocaust to happen. And we keep repeating history. We don't learn. We just keep allowing others who have genocidal acts go to commit crimes, and we applaud them for it. We feel it's true that Israel is committing those crimes on the ground, but these crimes are being financed by all those countries. They are complicit. They are partners in crime. Israel would never be able to take those actions if they are not being supported and allowed by all those international governments. By Germany is the second weapons provider. I mean, of course, the States is there giving gifts of bombs and airplanes to go and kill children, And even the last attack a couple of days ago on humanitarian aid post that the states tried to arrange, of course, bringing an external party that is using humanitarian aid and starvation as a trap to kill more people. Like, it's not enough that starvation is is being used as a weapon in this genocide. No, we are also going to attract people to come and collect foods, and so we bomb them. There is no way to explain what is happening in Gaza other than an intent to exterminate a whole population. The whole thing of let's negotiate and we are making efforts, it's unrealistic, because Israel by the second is killing people. It's not like there's a situation of negotiation and on the ground things are on pause to see what is the outcome. No, they spend times about meetings and declarations and then agreements, and Israel is killing people. Like, with everything is happening now while we are talking, Israel is bombing civilians. This is the reality that we need to understand. For the past 18 months, they haven't stopped, even during the so-called ceasefire. From day one, when it was applied, they also started shooting at civilians. So this is the reality that we have to deal with, and this is why we encourage everyone to go. We encourage people to join. We encourage people who speak, about civil rights, people who fight and struggle for their own rights, because Palestinian people in their struggle, they are not only fighting for their own freedom and justice, they are fighting for our freedom. They are fighting for our values. Would there be anyone in this world say that they are okay with killing children? Anyone would say that we are okay with starvation against the whole population just because we want to starve them and we want to displace them because we want this land, we want to take it away? And you see some settlers going around in tours with boats and saying, okay, so that's where we are going to build our settlement, that's where we are going to build our houses. What about the people? Something that happened 78 years, the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian people, when it started with a Nakba, it's today happening and being live streamed in such a larger scale, and you see no actions. I mean, even if we talk about Spain, which is one of the most European outspoken countries about the situation and violation, we keep pressuring the government to stop arms trade with Israel because they are doing it.
They're good rhetorically, right? They're very good rhetorically.
Yeah, they speak about, okay, we are gonna not, we will not trade our weapons with Israel. However, the deals that we had before October 7th, we cannot stop them. But compared historically in Spain with other countries, they just took a decision and stopped all deals compared to Russia and Libya. So they have the possibility to take a decision. Other than that, they allow so many ships. What Tara mentioned about later with mass company that is going with ships bringing weapons from all around to take it to Israel, they also come to our ports in Spain, the different ones. And while the country and the government talks about stopping those type of trades, they allow transit of ships. So we have also to be aware what steps are they actually taking. Like today, making a statement and saying genocide is bad means nothing. If you don't really take a stand and take a direct action to stop it, then you are complicit. If I have someone just saying, okay, no, we don't want violence, we don't want to see bombings, what are you doing about it? That is the true question that we have to ask ourselves. Are we doing anything to stop this? Because just saying a statement or making a press release doesn't mean anything, because it's not stopping people of being killed.
Right. And can you just really quickly, sir, and then I'll pass to you, Melanie. I just have a question for you, Saif, which is what kind of coordination do you have with the people in Gaza right now? Because I heard you just mention you're in contact with them, and I know you mentioned this on your interview with the great show Breakthrough News, the great channel. So how are you coordinating with them?
Well, we know that it's very tough to get in contact with people in Gaza because Israel is imposing, a blackout. They try to cut communication. There is no electricity. But the resilience of Palestinians is really inspiring. They find so many ways to try to get connection, and they risk themselves to try to tell us what is happening, and basically hear another voice on the other side that is not there. So the first thing when we started discussing about the possibility of organizing such an action, we needed to ask the people there, is this something that they think it's useful for them? Would they support it? They are okay with it? Because we don't see ourselves, as the saviors going to change the reality of other people. I think Palestinians have thought enough taught us enough during the last 78 years of resistance and resilience. They are saving us with what they are doing. But being the people who are resisting and the people who are being oppressed, we have to ask this question. And so we went and we contacted with them. We are in coordination with the workers' independent committees in Gaza, who basically definitely supported the call, sent us a letter and saying, listen, we appreciate what you are trying to do. We believe this is the right thing to do. We cannot demand from people to do it because this is how they are, But they said if people think that this is something that they are willing to do, it for us, we ask for it, and we received some videos. Even we didn't publish it because we don't want to
put anyone
we
at
don't
risk.
want those footages to be used in a way. But I receive on daily basis pictures and videos of people speaking about the march and telling us that they want to meet us on the other side of Rafah. It's at least on the emotional aspect for people
Right.
to know that we think about them and we are willing to leave our houses, our work, our jobs, our families, and to try to go there to do, the basic thing that is left for us to do, because other than going and trying to stop this with our own bodies, we don't have anything to do.
Yeah, I think that's really important what you're saying. I mean, sometimes I went to a talk that Chris Hedges gave and Gabor Mate gave, which was pretty incredible. It was a fundraiser from Mecca, Middle Eastern Children's Alliance. And Gabor Mate was like, we've been doing all this stuff, protesting. And he wasn't like poo-pooing it, but he said, we haven't managed to save a single finger on a single Palestinian's hand. And, I think that one of the things that keeps me going, and I don't think we can't stop, right, no matter what. But one of the things that encourages me and maybe this is a terribly low bar to have, but just knowing that the things that we do here gives people there some kind of feeling of solidarity and support. I mean, I wish we could say we're saving X number of people's lives or we're succeeding in achieving this concrete goal. But I do think that sometimes we have to remember that in itself gives people hope and gives people, not in like in a naive way, but I think helps people continue, like carry on. Yeah, were you going to say something, Saif? And then I want to
I'm sorry, but I want to clarify that I believe all the actions that we do all around the globe are important and relevant, and it all builds up. But we have been cornered into a situation where we literally at the edge of losing what is left of our humanity and dignity because of what Israel and the crimes that they are committing against the Palestinian people. So taking things a step forward is part of this global mobilization that people also are doing. And the actions that are done locally, it's not less important, but we need to open our scope of work. We need to think that there is more that can be done, and we need to escalate things. We need to go all, over there. And today, the march is going through Cairo to try to arrive to Rafah. But this is not the last station. We have to keep thinking, okay, what can we do more? How we can bring this, because I mean, we are now the only ones, people, and not us. In general, people are the only ones who are mobilizing and trying to do an action to try to force our politicians. And in any next elections in any country, those leaders, they need to understand that there is a cost for complicity, that supporting crimes and being part of it is not okay, not because of Palestinians, because it's impacting us. It's impacting our values. I know I can't explain to my kids how this is happening in today. It's very difficult for them to see me watching the news and me trying to explain, well, yes, we live in Spain. It's nice, it's beautiful, but there is a different location where kids are being bombed just because they live there. I can't find the words to explain it. Not in any common sense. And you would we had meetings with politicians here from different political parties on the right wing, and they talk about Israel of being the only democracy in the Middle East. What type of democracy that is willing to, 24 hours bomb kids? This is their main target. And we have seen videos of soldiers entering to Ashifa hospital and being very content of the dead bodies of babies that they died because there was no electricity and no oxygen, and they were happy with it. Or the videos showing us them bombing universities, and they are very glad that they are doing it, or bombing houses and taking a video of it as an anniversary celebration. This is the type of mentality that we are dealing with, a mentality that is willing to commit genocide and celebrate it. So I'm sorry I took too much time, but I think we are all trying to bring out a message. It's very important to say we are not the story. I understand that people they are interested because this didn't happen for a long time, to try to mobilize globally, to try to go all over there, but we are not the story. The story is what is happening in Palestine. The story is what is happening in Gaza. This is the story, and they are the ones who are inspiring us, and we are being so motivated and inspired with their resilience, with the way that they stood fast in front of all the war machines that they are confronting on daily basis, and they are still, when we talk to them on the phone, they are sending to us love and checking on us. How are you doing? Or sometimes calling on a weekend and apologizing because they are calling on a weekend. When you see how these people are acting in front of all the destruction and bombing and hate, and they still have their humanity, and we are losing it.
Much more humanity than the West. Yeah, and I hope I didn't come off that I was implying that, like, I wasn't trying to say that, like, we're all heroes for doing anything. I'm just saying that there's an impact, even given how vilified people are. Even doing something in solidarity and support, I think, has an impact. But Melanie, you were about to say something, and then Tara, I want to hear from you.
Yes, I just wanted to add on everything that Saif was saying. That organizing this has been the most positive experience for me personally of the last 20 months. It's so beautiful how many people have come together, how we are having our international committees and gatherings, and it's like a snowball, really. It started as some individual ideas, and weirdly enough, and we all had the same idea at the pretty much same time, and then we found each other to amplify and to increase and make it bigger. And I think this is such an important lesson, that we have to know that we have the power. We, the people, do have the power. And the governments, they keep showing us on one or the other way that, or pretending that it is not like that, but it's always like that. And our movement is also inspired by other historical movements, right? I mean, the Berlin Wall, where I live, it didn't fall because the government one day of the GDR decided, it's actually immoral to have an illegal wall in Germany, right? It fell because thousands of people stood there day after day, and they wouldn't go home. And this is how these unlawful systems fall. They fall not because the governments decide that it is not okay from one day to the other, like South Africa, right? It fell because of boycott. And there have been other protests from Moroccans against the Spanish government in history. And we really have to remember our power and not just, come down to think that it's hopeless and we cannot do anything and we don't have power and, the politicians, they have to solve this. No, they're not going to solve this. They will not change their course. The UN General Assembly just voted the former German foreign minister as a president, to the UNGA. So that, people need to understand.
General Assembly.
Yes, thank you. That they will continue with their game, because this is a state's game and it's about power and money and it's not about human lives. But we humans, we are breaking under this, we are breaking mentally and our souls are crushing. And this is why we need to get up and to see, the masses of people, that this gives hope as well, and that they are mobilized and want to come. And then we have, we started crowdfunding campaigns to fund the people who cannot afford but want to go, but others, they cannot go, but they want to give something, right? So by now we have raised, in a couple of days, tens of thousands of euros and other currencies, all over the globe, to get people going, to get them traveling. And I think this is so valuable. And for each of us, we all have our own story why this is so crucial. This is a decisive moment for us as a global civil society also. Where are we going to go? Are we going to let the Hunger Games become real life and see how people have to are chased and laughed off when they run for the little aid that is put on some places, and then they get shot. I mean, what a horrific, unimaginable reality has this become, right? Or are we going to say enough is enough? It's us now. We're going to stand up and we will not let this happen in our name. Because, of course, we all know that phrase, right? Later on, everyone will have always been against us. Yeah, you can say that. But we have social media and everyone can prove that you weren't against this because you were silent. And if you're silent, you're not against this. If you're not supporting anything to stop this madness and this crazy murder that is going on in front of our eyes, then you are not against this. And I just want to add, for me as a German, there's been so much conversation about anti-Semitism in Germany, especially, which is really, I think, it's instrumentalized in order to keep this this lawlessness going and these atrocities. And to me, I have to say, the Palestinians are the secondary victims of the Holocaust. We are inevitably connected to the history of the Palestinians, to the atrocities that are committed to them nowadays. Because if it weren't for the Germans, their atrocious history and the persecution of the Jewish people, then probably we would very much probably not be in this situation today, right? So, and it's so easy to shake that off for Germans when they say it's too complicated or we unwaveringly stand at the side of Israel. What have you really learned from your history? When back then it was the Jewish people that you put into ghettos and that you put into concentration camps. And now, I mean, today I saw a post where someone was saying, what's the difference when you gather someone in a concentration camp and gas them, or you shoot them or bomb them? I mean, seriously, we have to ask us these questions. What is that? And I'm personally so ashamed about my government, so ashamed about this dehumanization campaign, about really simply just replacing Jewish people with Palestinian people. Basically, that's what it feels to me. And I think every other German should be, because we always pretend that we have learned from our history, but have we? Is it really just performative? Is it just a charade? I mean, what is it in the end?
That's why I'm doing this documentary, by the way, about Jewish Holocaust survivors who are speaking out against what Israel's doing, because I think it's so important to show people saying, no, never again means never again for anyone. And these are the people who survived the Holocaust. And if people actually care about survivors, which they claim to, then of course they'd be listening to these people, but they don't, because they're not convenient to the narrative that, in the most disgusting, cynical, weaponizing, exploitative way, uses a genocide to justify another genocide. And Tara, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, you both mentioned, you all mentioned great things. I just to touch on the last point that Melanie made about the charade of humanitarianism, or pretending that things will never happen again. I guess it's a really good time to remind people that that after the Nuremberg trials, there were former Nazis that were rehabilitated into the US and employed by NASA and the CIA to form the US intelligence infrastructure that exists today. And so, when it comes to people pretending that they had always been against this, I think history is going to remember who actually stood against the mass slaughter of Palestinians in the U.S. By the U.S., Israel, Canada, the EU, and their allies, and who retroactively, mourned the loss or felt bad or felt some sort of pity for my people, and this, just to go back to the point of rehabilitation, it was just a few months ago, I think, that the Canada had applauded a Ukrainian Canadian that had served in the SS, in the Waffen SS, in the parliament, and this is the same parliament that had passed a non-binding motion in March of 2024 for an arms embargo against Israel, and also the same parliament that has allowed hundreds of millions of dollars of weapons transfers under U.S. contracts and not under U.S. trade contracts to be traded with Israel and to be used on Palestinians. And interestingly and incidentally, today there was this article published on the Toronto Star, which is a really Zionist news paper here, that had said that Canada is launching or probing into Canadian-Israeli dual citizens who had served in the Israeli occupation forces for war crimes. And they said that this investigation started in late 2023 or early 2024. And so all this time, since late 2023, since October 7, before October 7, but especially after, in this accelerated moment, all this time, Canada has been aiding and abetting the slaughter of Palestinians while passing non-binding rhetorical motions for arms embargoes, while silencing protests and smearing them as anti-Semitic, while applauding former Nazi soldiers in the parliament. And now they're revealing that they had been investigating war crimes being committed by Canadian-Israeli dual citizens. And I think one thing that I've been thinking about while listening to you, Saif, is, just to reiterate your point that this is not an action that is supposed to exist in lieu of other actions that are happening internationally. And at the same time, what does it say about us that tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have been slaughtered, injured, maimed, orphaned, starved under our watch for 19 months now? What does that say about us? What does it say that this is a genocide that has been live streamed, that we have been watching on our devices that are accessible to us 24/7, that Palestinians in Gaza have been filming their dead, their martyred relatives, their starving children, their bones peeking through their skin, filming them and taking pictures of them for us to see and witness, and at the bare minimum give them the honor of witnessing them. But really, to me, the bare minimum is doing whatever possible to try and stop this mass atrocity that, again, people here in the imperial core in the West are going to, in the future, retroactively sanitize. There was this article in Haaretz that was written a few days or a few weeks ago about how most Israelis actually don't know what's happening in Gaza, in Gaza, and that's why things there's no mass protests.
How is that possible? The IDF live stream it.
I'm honestly not sure how it's possible when there are Israelis blocking aid trucks that are going into Gaza. Not only blocking them with their bodies, but hosting parties with DJs there.
Bringing their kids. So disgusting.
Bringing their kids.
Everyone knows what's going on. Everyone everywhere.
And so this notion that we're going to, in 10, 20 years, memorialize the Palestinians who have been killed, because I know we will memorialize the Palestinians who have been killed in this mass extermination event. I think, and I want to stress that not only will history remember, but we will remember. It's us Palestinians who will remember, who actually did something and who actually didn't do something, who actually risked a job or some sort of, reputational harm or whatever, to put their body on the line or life on the line for the people of Gaza. And I will say, just to close or to conclude that, the people of Palestine and Palestine itself, the land, one person, one finger from a Palestinian and 1 inch of Palestinian land is worth all the risk that we can take at this point. We are people who are living, even if we're Palestinians in exile, but we are living in the imperial core. Our tax dollars are going towards the annihilation of our people, and the least that we can do is everything. The least we can do is everything to stop this mass atrocity. And so, just to bring it back to the march and to the freedom flotilla, let's go, let's go. Let's try to break the siege on Gaza. Let's do whatever is possible. let's attempt with our bodies to break the siege and communicate that, watching our people being lured to humanitarian aid zones only to be killed by U.S. Israeli forces is not, something that will go unnoticed, or, a lapse in judgment on the Israeli forces, and or a mistake or an accident on the U.S. Front, but rather a deliberate strategy of mass extermination and ethnic cleansing.
And I just want to show something. It's like, in some ways, I don't want to put people through it, but because we are, I'm going to do two things before we wrap. And thank you guys so much for your time. And I could keep talking to you, but I know you have to go to sleep, especially you, Melanie, and Saif. But we have an update from Thiago from the boat, so I'm going to play that. But first, let's play the update, and then I'm going to torture everyone by playing a clip of Matt Miller, who was the State Department spokesperson, which will demonstrate exactly the kind of complicity we're talking about. Yeah.
Katie, sorry, can I just say, because you said before one genocide doesn't justify another one, there's this huge sign that people bring to the demos in Germany, and just for exactly this phrase, they have been arrested on the weekend. and just about Germany's complicity as well. Germany has sent over $500 million worth in weapons in this genocidal period. So it's just simply, it's unbelievable what is also internally going on in Germany in terms of repressions and active support of this genocide.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
If I may say something, I have seen some of the comments talking about how that this is something colonial, that these activists, white people, are coming from everywhere and trying to go there. It's very important to clarify that what we are doing is based on a call from the Palestinian people who live in Palestine, and there are so many Palestinians who are involved in the movement itself. So you could say that this is a Palestinian-led movement. I mean, you have 3 people in this show, 2 of them are Palestinians, and there are so many that are involved in the different delegations, and still we would never move a step forward if Palestinians in Gaza and in Palestine, they didn't say that. And there is a video call that we have published from Dr. Mustafa al-Barghouti, who was supporting and endorsing the call and asking for people. So it's very important to verify information. It's very important to see what others are trying to do. And unfortunately, while people committing genocide and while there are people who are trying to do something about it, there are others who are trying to sabotage those intents, because for them, it's fine to continue killing babies, and for them, it's fine to continue bombing. So I'm sorry, I just dragged my attention to see such comments. And
yeah, I mean, you also happened to have addressed that earlier. So I think people who said that are probably not paying attention and maybe just want to say that. So let's check out, and also it's kind of invisibilizing of you and Tara, but let's check out this update from Thiago.
Everyone, this is Thiago Avila from the steering committee of the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, and I'm here on board the Madeleine on our journey to break the siege of Gaza and to create a people's humanitarian corridor. Today we just had our second security incident of our journey. The first one was in Catania when a military helicopter was flying by us doing intimidatory maneuvers, and tonight we spotted a drone at 11:12 CEST PM, and the drone was approaching our boat, and so we sounded the alarm and everyone went to their positions, because we just trained our people to do these emergency protocols and to do the nonviolence training as well. And so everyone went to their positions. We lost visual with the drone, and the drone disappeared from our sight. And it's been over an hour now from the moment that the alarm was sounded. And yeah, we lowered the alert level right now, and people return to their places. It's actually very important that we talk about this, because this could be either psychological warfare from Israel, trying to intimidate us, trying to scare us, trying to make us make mistakes, or it could also be just surveillance maneuver, or it could also be an attack. So in every situation like this, we need to be very, very, very careful, and we need to do all of our safety procedures. We're doing our best here to train everyone, and to be honest, I was very proud of our team because the response time was very good. And yes, people are getting better by the day. They're getting every day more ready to do this, and people are more aware of the situation every day that passes. And it's very beautiful to see how much the world is on our back to support us, and how much people are willing to break the silence in many, many ways, so that any alert goes very fast to the world. This can literally save our lives in many situations. I'm glad that this was not an attack situation.
So that's finally some good news, although it could be, as Thiago said, it could be psychological warfare. And I feel bad ending on this, but I feel like we need to be calling people to account, as we're saying. And so this to me is kind of the perfect example of the bipartisan nature of the U.S. support for Israel and genocide. So here we're going to play a clip of Matt Miller recently on Sky News. And this, of course, Matt Miller was a State Department spokesperson. So we're going to play a clip from Sky News, and then we're going to play a clip from Matt Miller from a year ago.
What's going on in Gaza now is a genocide?
I don't think it's a genocide, but I think I think it is without a doubt true that Israel has committed war crimes.
You wouldn't have said that at the podium.
Yeah, look, because when you're at the podium, you're not expressing your personal opinion. You're expressing the conclusions of the United States government. The United States government had not concluded they've committed war crimes, still have not concluded that.
But your personal view is they have. They were while you were there.
But let me qualify that. There are two ways to think about the commission of war crimes. One is if the state has pursued a policy to deliberately committing war crimes or is acting reckless in a way that aids and abets war crimes. And that, I think, is an open question. I think what is almost certainly not an open question is that there have been individual incidents that have been war crimes where members of the Israeli military have committed war crimes. So ultimately, in almost every major conflict, including conflicts prosecuted by democracies, you will see individual members of the militaries commit war crimes. And the way you judge a democracy is whether they hold those people accountable.
But Israel hasn't.
That's my point.
Right.
Is we have not yet seen them hold sufficient numbers of the military accountable, and I think it's
sufficient
an open question whether they're going to.
I'm really struck that you think now that Israel did commit war crimes, and yet at the time, and I get why, but at the time you were at the podium and you couldn't say that. I mean, personally, that must be very difficult for you.
So the State Department itself had concluded, not in these, they didn't phrase it in these terms, but I think I did at the podium a few times, had concluded that it was likely that Israel had committed war crimes. But I do think it's almost certain that they have.
That's great. Great. So let's compare that with what he said last year when he was being questioned by a journalist.
In this case, I can't go through all 6 of them, take too long, but one instance, a strike on the Taj 3 tower in Gaza City, the UN says was caused by several 1,000-pound bombs, killing 105 people, including 32 women and 47 children. I mean, should it take 8 months to make a final determination as to whether that was within
as we have said before, it is very difficult to draw fact-specific conclusions when we don't have someone on the ground and we're in the middle of an active conflict. So what we do is we gather information, we talk to independent organizations to try to gather information, and then we make our assessments. Those assessments are compounded by the sheer scale of this conflict and the number of incidents that we have to review and the limited resources that we have to make those assessments. But I can tell you there are people working hard on it day and night.
But how does it come, I don't want to belabor the point, Matt, but how does it come that UN, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty, International Criminal Court can all find compelling evidence of war crimes by Israel, and the United States, with its enormous powers of intelligence and direct contact with Israel, can't find those things?
I would say that different organizations have different burdens, different responsibilities, and we take ours very seriously and are taking these assessments very seriously and want to finish them as soon as possible, but it's important that we get them right.
This guy should know not a single day of peace. He shouldn't be allowed to appear in public without being harassed and called out for the genocide enabler that he is.
I remember that one video. So when he was smirking and laughing, do you remember that?
Yeah,
When he was
smirk,
asked
yeah.
about, this really, it has been such a shit show what this person has been saying over the last tweet. But this is a repetitive pattern, right? This is what you
Yeah.
see over and over again. These politicians all of a sudden saying something once they're out of office, right? So the European foreign responsible person, he was doing exactly the same thing. Borrell, he was also saying it's a genocide clearly after he was retired, basically.
Right.
So then all of a sudden it's easy to come out, right? Because actually these people also know that that they might be persecuted for aiding and abetting to
Right.
genocide.
Hopefully, it will be. Yeah. And Tara, what were you going to say?
I was just going to agree with you and say I think it's I think it's part of our responsibility for those of us living here to make Zionism absolutely unacceptable, to make it an untenable position to have in society, to make it completely possible that Zionists are marginalized and ostracized from civil society from this point forward. And honestly, we should have decades ago, but even more so from this day forward.
Well, thank you all so much for coming on. And Tara, those are great words. We should make a short of that. We're going to make a lot of shorts from this because you guys have said a lot of really powerful things. And I know that, Tara, you've paid a price. You've been harassed. You're on the Canary Mission website. Melanie, you got fired over it. I'm now, not to brag, but I'm the cover of, I'm a member of the Beitar's Club of Jews who can't get let into Israel. You're such a weird
honor, Katie.
Yeah, but also they pretend to be, they're so like, they're obsessed with being like the new Jew, right? And like rejecting the old diaspora Jew who they think of as weak. But like, if you're so butch and tough and badass, why would you be anonymous? Like, you're just a bunch of cowards. You won't even put your name on anything. So you're really the weaklings that you project all that stuff onto other people. Kind of a big theme in Israel. Also, someone in the comments, I just want to correct something, which is that the increase of population does not disprove the phenomenon of genocide. I mean, Melanie can talk to this, but that's just a stupid talking point that anytime anyone says that, it's actually very clarifying because you're just revealing you don't know what the definition of genocide is, and then you can be discounted. And then also there's someone in the comments who said stuff about they're probably Zionist plants trying to make the pro-Palestine movement look anti-Semitic. But either way, something looks ridiculous about no good Jews or something. And I mean, I usually ignore those things, but
should be ignored.
Yeah, I guess it should be ignored, right? But it's like, I mean, it's funny because like the most eloquent people I know who condemn anti-Semitism and understand anti-Semitism as a phenomenon of like white supremacy and colonialism are Palestinians, by the way. So thank you for doing that, all the Palestinians who do that. Not that this is the priority, obviously. This is not the priority. I just happen to think that it's important that people not taint the space with that. So I always call out Islamophobes and anti-Semites. Not that either of those terms are really appropriate, which we can get into on another show. But
that would be a good show, talk about that.
Yeah. And
I just really wanted to say something about the movement, because you tapped on this colonial movement or whatever this. I just wanted to say, we are now 54 country delegations, as Saif is saying. It's really so beautiful. They're growing by the day. It's unbelievable. From Australia, Japan, Australia to Mexico and Algeria and Morocco, and it's just it's simply mind-blowing, how fast people are mobilizing in all corners of the world. I just wanted to add that to what you have said before.
Great. And we will be donating. Well, I don't want to even say this because who knows if I'll get locked up. So forget that. But people, if they want to express their support, I'm sure there are ways of doing that. And potentially there were some people who donated super chats tonight who potentially, hypothetically, those things could be turned into perhaps by a hypothetical host of a show, a donation for this march. So we'll have to see. Thank you all so much for everything that you do. It's so inspiring, and you are like inspiring for humanity and part of
Palestinians.
It's the Palestinians.
Yeah. Yes. Palestinians like here, inspiring. Then like you guys are like here. No offense. But yeah. No, you're still inspiring. But yes. No. I mean, and when you contrast the treatment, I mean, when you see Palestinians who treat their pets with more love and respect than Israelis treat them or their cats. I mean, there's this like perfect encapsulation of the Israeli psychosis and sadism video. If you contrast like the way Palestinians take care of their pets and risk their lives to save them in buildings, and then you have this Israeli teenager throw his cat off a balcony. I don't know if you saw that, but doesn't get the coverage that it would get here if a Palestinian had done that. It would be like wall-to-wall coverage. But thank you all so much. And those of you who are watching, don't go anywhere because we have an entirely new segment. We have 2 more segments. So I'm really excited to bring on our next guest. He is making his Katie Halper Show debut. So really historic moment. We're bringing on Etan Mabourakh, who is the organizing manager at the National Iranian American Council, overseeing a nationwide network in all 50 states and 15 chapters, building Iranian American leadership and empowering volunteers to engage lawmakers and strengthen community. So let us bring on to the show Etan, who is going to be talking to us, by the way, about a video that NIAC's President Jamal Abdi just released, commenting on Chuck Schumer's remarks on Trump's negotiations with Iran. So welcome, Etan. Oops.
Hi, Katie. Thanks so much for having me.
Did I freeze?
Nope. You are all good as far as I can tell. Katie?
Katie, you there?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Katie, can you hear me?
All right. Well, we will sort that out. 1 second here. It would not be a Katie Halper show without some sort of snag, obviously. But thank you so much for being here and for your understanding and patience, Etan.
Yeah, of course.
Let's see. The chat is saying now it is the Bradley Bloom show. So I should pull up my manifesto while I have the chance. Where did I put it? No, just joking. I think Katie should probably be back momentarily. Here she is.
Sorry, I have no idea what just happened. That was very weird.
No, that's all right.
Well, thank you. Etan, sorry, while we were doing that, I just took a big Advil. So 1 second.
No worries.
Sorry, I took a chewy headache pill. So welcome, Etan. Please tell us about what you're working on. Thank you for coming onto the show. We're so glad we could make this work. Tell us what you're working on and about this video that your president of NIAC just put out, which we will show shortly.
Thank you so much, Katie. Yes, I'm really happy to be here and happy to talk about some of my work at the organizing department for NIAC, for the National Iranian American Council. We are the largest and the oldest Iranian American grassroots organization out there, and really the only voice trying to amplify the very basic argument against preventable war with Iran and in support of negotiations that would relieve sanctions, put the nuclear program in a box, and solve just a really difficult problem that is affecting so many people. And I'm based out of New York. We have a chapter in New York. We have chapters all across the country of engaged Iranian Americans. Iranian Americans are really engaged, informed diaspora, and Schumer is one of, just for a little background, he's among the few Dems who voted against Obama's nuclear deal in 2015. He then flipped and said he didn't want it torn up under Trump. And now he's flipping back again against diplomacy, trying to sabotage talks with BS talking points, pushing for war with Iran. And these negotiations, they're crucial. They will very likely determine, the difference between a negotiated agreement and a Israeli-led, U.S.-backed war with Iran. And Iran is a much more formidable opponent than previous endless wars that the United States has waged in the Middle East. And really Schumer, what he's doing is just really a lazy partisan attack that is reducing the lives of Iranians and Americans who are stationed in the region who would die for a punchline for that really only resonates with centrist Democrat Washington elites and anyone. Yeah,
let's show the video so people know, because not everyone may know about this zinger of a video. So we're going to show the video that you guys made, which features the really stupid Schumer joke, and then you can react to that. Sound good? Okay, great.
Axios reported on the proposal that the United States presented Iran in negotiations to curb its nuclear program and prevent a war. Now, unsurprisingly, the hawks who do not want an agreement and instead want the U.S. to back Israeli military strikes on Iran attacked the proposal. But do you know who was the loudest voice opposing it? It wasn't the war hawks and neoconservatives who have most vocally called for war with Iran, like Tom Cotton or Lindsey Graham. No, it was Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer.
Witkoff and Rubio are negotiating a secret side deal with Iran. What kind of bull is this?
Notably, Schumer is not just rehashing the opposition to any deal with Iran that Republicans led 10 years ago against Obama's deal. Schumer is literally repeating the same conspiracy-driven talking points that they leveled 10 years ago, claiming that there is a secret side deal.
These secret side deals we don't have.
Secret side deal with the Iranians.
What I'm scared to death of is we get down the road, somebody opens a closet, and out falls the language of a secret agreement and say, ha!
They're going to sound tough in public and then have a side deal that lets Iran get away with everything? That's outrageous.
Look, there is no secret side deal. The fact is, in reflexively opposing diplomacy and peddling these conspiracies, Schumer is taking peace off the table and pushing for the alternative, war with Iran. The question for Schumer is there any realistic deal that he would support? Does he want another war in the Middle East? Now, I'm afraid we won't like the answers, which is why we need other Democrats to step up. There are plenty of bad and dangerous things to stand up and oppose Trump on, but preventing a war with Iran is not one of them. Schumer here is not fighting Trump's bad policies. He's not calling out real corruption or actual side deals. He is just pushing the AIPAC Netanyahu agenda of sabotaging diplomacy and paving the way to war. Even as new polling shows that overwhelming majorities of Democrats, Republicans, and independents support a deal with Iran and oppose war. So if Democrats ever want to return to power, sabotaging diplomacy, parroting AIPAC and the neocons, and marching into a war with Iran is not just immoral, it's bad politics. Let's hope that others do not follow in Chuck Schumer's footsteps, but instead speak out in support of peace and a diplomatic solution, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican in the White House.
Very well said. What would you like to add to that video? I mean, where to start really? But this is one of those examples where, Democrats are just as bad as Republicans.
Yeah, and frankly, in some ways, Democrats in this case are worse. And we are really trying to sound the alarm on this. From Schumer, he really should, if I could add anything, is that he should retract these comments, attacking and mischaracterizing very important ongoing negotiations that have implications for millions of people.
I'm sure he'll do that.
Right. We still need to ask for us. I still, the biggest threat.
We're doing this officially. You're on notice, Chuck Schumer. We are officially asking you to do the right thing and retract this shameful, reactionary, example of groveling for, I would say, hawkish votes.
Yeah, and
You
Jeffries
can say it
is
better than I do.
Yeah, and Representative Jeffries, back in February said that Iran was weak and that the U.S. can't take its foot off the gas until Iran is brought to its knees using all available mechanisms. And meanwhile, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Thomas Massey, Ro Khanna, other progressives, Ed Markey, a lot of folks have really well-developed positions on Iran, and Schumer is just refusing to hear him.
Where do you think this misguided, to be charitable, misguided or problematic position comes from for so many of these politicians?
I think it comes from this tired narrative that maximum pressure and the most hawkish, aggressive posture towards Iran bears fruit. And when you look at the facts of that posture, the same posture that we've held lockstep in place after Trump pulled out of the previous agreement and Biden largely continued max pressure policies, the situation for American national security and for ordinary Iranian people has gotten worse and worse. The regime the Iranian authorities have continued to sell oil, create black markets, consolidate power, advance their own agenda, regardless of these sanctions policies and of our approach. And I think it's past time that we try a new one that puts people first and recognize the threat of war, the real threat. Netanyahu has pressured Trump to bomb Iran 3 times. Thankfully he said no each time, but in April and again in the last 10 days.
Yeah, and it's really quite unsettling, especially because this is an issue that, like as happens in so many cases, it's hugely unpopular, his view, among voters and people. And in fact, there's a study that shows that 69% of all respondents and 78% of Democrats want a negotiated settlement with Iran. So it's pretty interesting that Chuck Schumer and others would take this position when it's not even politically smart to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a University of Maryland poll, that found 78% Democrats prefer a negotiated agreement to only 5% who prefer war. That also applied to Republicans and to the broad populace. 69% of Americans, 64% of Republicans prefer a negotiated deal. And it's just I don't understand why Democrats continue to refuse to position themselves as the party that is more against war than the Republicans. I mean, when you cede the ground of who is the pro-peace party, when you allow Trump to get up on stage and say, I am going to get the ceasefire, I'm the pro-peace, I want to end the wars, you lose credibility.
Right. I wanted to ask you a personal question. Can I ask you about your own identity?
Sure.
Like where you come from, and because you kind of debunk a lot of the tropes about Iran. The fact that you're, well, I'll let you introduce your own background. I don't want to.
Sure. Yeah. I am a Jewish Iranian American. I grew up in South Florida. Went to Jewish day school. Grew up. I played in the Maccabiah games in Israel. And I speak Hebrew. I have a lot of family who went to Israel after actually just before the revolution in Iran. And my family left Iran to come to the United States and to Israel. But yeah, there is. I mean, Iran was home to the second largest Jewish population in the region. There is a rich Jewish tradition in Iran. There are holy sites in Iran. In Hamadan, Esther and Mordecai's graves are in Iran, and I would hope that Israel doesn't bomb them one day. That kind of relationship with the country, regardless of the government, regardless of the crimes of the government, which at NIAC we actually report on and brief members of Congress on as much as we can, and try and give voice to ordinary Iranian people who know that very well. But I want to be able to visit Iran. I'd like to envision a future where there can be a flight from Tel Aviv to Tehran, from Tel Aviv to Los Angeles, from Tehran to Los Angeles. Like that is a future which a lot of people want, which most constituents want. They don't want a war with Iran. And there are interest in DC who I think their brain breaks when they meet a person like me who can have full-scale compassion for your Iranian and your Israeli and your Palestinian. It's not. It doesn't have to. You don't have to feed into this narrative that we need to go to war with these people and need to give Netanyahu what he's wanted, since his clean break strategy. This is the last piece of the puzzle, and I think young people, Jewish Americans, Jewish Iranian Americans, don't want this.
Brad, I think that you have some stuff that you want to say, right?
Actually, I was just pulling up just to remind people. I forget what year this was. This was at least going on like 20 years ago, I believe. There was John McCain. Let me just share this with you. Yes, okay. Where he was giving a speech, and he said this was a joke to him. He thought this was funny.
That old Beach Boys song, Bomb Iran. Bomb, bomb, bomb.
So just to say, it really seems like this has been a long-standing desire of, the neocon, war-hungry war hawks in the West for a very, very long time. And this just seems to be like they view what's going on right now with Gaza and with the Trump administration being in the office in power. I kind of get the sense like they feel like this is the brass ring for them, and they're just going, anything and everything that they've wanted to do, whether it's, cutting the federal government, like crazy, to flirting with World War III here, like they're just going for it.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's I think that's a really great point, and I wanted to follow up on that or piggyback on that. We actually just got a very good text from someone, but I can actually I'll show it. Hold on one second. Yeah, and Etan, what do you think about Brad's point?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a long-standing tradition to just dehumanize Iranians and try and set the table of this as a reasonable proposition, when I think all experts, intelligence experts, admit that an initial strike backed by the Israelis, the likes that have been proposed, would not eliminate the nuclear program. It would likely only provoke a larger conflict that may bring in U.S. bases in the region. Really, there's just no upside to this. And the deal that we had previously was working. It did contain the nuclear program. It did offer a shred of hope for Iranians to be connected to the rest of the world. And that doesn't mean that this is an endorsement of the Iranian government's actions.
No, but correct me if I'm wrong. But correct me if I'm wrong. Iran followed that nuclear deal to the letter. It was checked time and time and time again. It's not debatable. They followed it to the letter, and I believe Trump was the one who ripped it up.
Yeah.
Completely. The trust deficit is with the Americans, definitely right now. And, the Iranians can largely be considered rational actors when you look at that in the context of Israeli, regional aggressions, bombing in Yemen, bombing the Iranian embassy in Syria, bombing.
And what was the murder of
on Pezeshkian's inauguration?
Soleimani, Qasim.
General Qasim
Very
Soleimani.
handsome.
I mean, there's quite a list of instances where, again, as you said, Etan, this is not speaking to whether or not you do or do not endorse all facets of the Iranian government, but there's just so many instances where I can't imagine how you would disagree that Iran shows they are the adults in the room.
Yeah,
They're
so
the
much
ones
more restraint
they're
than
showing the
Israel.
restraint.
And dissidents within Iran do not want foreign intervention. They've been very clear. They've put out public statements. Iranians who have protested against the regime, who have served time in Evin prison, do not want foreign intervention. They, I think the best we can do in the diaspora outside the United States is get out of the way, relieve sanctions, prevent bombs from being dropped on their heads, and allow people to have a more productive day tomorrow. And these fantasies of US-backed regime change to rehash the 1953 coup and install, a figure of our own making, they're ridiculous. And they actually play into the hardline narratives within Iran that say everything is an American-backed or Israeli spy-backed plot. So,
Absolutely.
Like the lack of self-awareness from on some of this is really shocking.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I sincerely hope that we live in our lifetime to see the day where this whole, for the past decades and decades, at least in my lifetime, in this country, at least, that whole, it's almost like I don't want to say religion, but it just this perspective or the approach that, like you just put it, we can do whatever we want and we'll just overthrow and put, whoever we want in there. And time after time after time, it ends horribly. That this seems to, what I would hope would be kind of like be the final, desperate clawing of that ideology in the West. Like, again, this is like their last really good window with who's in power, etc. I just can't, it can't go away fast enough for me.
From your lips to God's ears, the God who I don't believe in. But well, Brian has a relevant question. Why should the US be able to tell any other nation whether they can have nuclear weapons? And Brad, if you want to join in on the conversation, you're going to have to switch your audio. Your input is going to have to be taken off of the headphones because.
Okay, see you later.
All right. Bye. That's an ironic thing because he tells that to all the guests, but it's like Dr. Heal Thyself. To be fair, I didn't give him a lot of prep time, but what do you say to this question? Why should the US be able to tell any other nation whether they can have nuclear weapons?
I mean, that's the thing about nuclear weapons. You kind of can, once you have them, you can do things. I don't think it's really a question of should. I mean, they probably shouldn't, but
morally
they can,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. But they can, and there, I mean, the Iranians, in the 7 years that we've pulled out of the deal, have not crossed the threshold to having a nuclear weapon. They've come dangerously close, but it's, they've held to that, to that, and it's, we can prevent weaponization, and they've been very clear in that commitment, which should be something we all want. I mean, of course, you have folks like Professor John Mearsheimer who argue that it'd probably be better for the region if they did weaponize. But I mean, I don't hold that view. But there are a lot of ways to look at it. I think some bottom line point is just that the majority of Americans, Republicans, Independents, Democrats, support a negotiated solution over whatever these other harebrained schemes that are likely coming directly from the Israelis are, and that the collapse of these talks would bring a full-scale war, and most rational people support them. And I think the Democrats would do right to stop allowing themselves to be seen as more pro-war than the Republicans. It's just not a good strategy.
Yeah, it's really not a good look. And here is, by the way, that disgusting quote you mentioned before. So Hakeem Jeffries said, let's see, House Dem leader Hakeem Jeffries, this is a tweet from Jacob N. Kornbluh, who's great. Sinwar is gone. Sinwar is gone, and Hamas is on the run, and Iran is at one of its weakest points in decades. We can't take our foot off the gas pedal until Iran is brought to its knees for the good of the world. Yeah, he's definitely cares about the good of the world. But I guess my final question is, if you could just explain what does motivate people to be so hawkish on this issue.
I think it's a lack of pushback. I think it's a lot of living in bubbles and silos and to only listening to a handful of interest groups that really do try and paint this narrative that even Iranians want bombs dropped on their head to liberate them.
Right.
Same
kind of
way
like LGBTQ people in Gaza want to be bombed, right?
Yeah, or even the Gazans that were protesting Hamas who then got bombed in those sites, and those sites that continuously got bombed. There's this idea that bombs work and to accomplish
liberation
goal.
through death. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that, I think that and Representative Jeffries, he likes to pick on Republicans as radical MAGA fanatics, and it's an odd place to be in such lockstep with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson, and seeing him as the far more hawkish radical voice on this issue. I mean, they really need to wake up and smell the coffee, or they'll lose the next election even worse. I mean,
it's really great for Trump to be able to run as the anti-war guy, because he always does that rhetorically. And then the Dems are, I mean, they're spineless. They're spineless, they're corrupt, and they're all, this sounds like a conspiracy theory, but they got a lot of money from AIPAC, and AIPAC is really not about negotiating with Iran.
I'll give some shout outs. I mean, there are some people in Congress. Ro Khanna has been fearless. Ed Markey has been really strong on this issue in the past. Pramila Jayapal has been really strong on this issue. A number of others, I think, are poised to, AOC. I think this is a perfect opportunity for AOC to put some distance between her and Schumer. These issues are just so blatant, and like any person you talk to on the street would say that we'd prefer to avoid a war with Iran.
Right. Well, Etan, thank you so much. We'll have to have you back on and talk to you for longer. But this was a great little mini segment takedown of Schumer, who's so corny. In addition to having bad politics, he's just so cringe.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Katie. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a great night. Okay. Well, guys, if you haven't already liked this stream, make sure you do give it a thumbs up. That was great. Really enjoyed talking to Etan. Been wanting to have him on for a while. We'll have to have him on again. Also really want to have on our first three guests again, because those were great guests. And now for our pièce de résistance, here is a pre-taped interview I did with three people who are organizing this upcoming Jewish Anti-Zionist Congress. So this is the first Jewish Anti-Zionist Congress in the world. It's going to be in Vienna. I'm attending it. Some great people who we've interviewed are attending it, like Stephen Kaposh, the Holocaust survivor, who's a very outspoken critic of Israel and is always protesting Israel's actions. Also, the great historian Ilan Pappé is going to be speaking there. And Tony Greenstein, who wrote that book that is so great, which is, I don't get a commission, Zionism During the Holocaust, the Weaponization of Memory in the Service of State and Nation, which is all about how the Zionists collaborated with the Nazis. Ilan Pappé has written several amazing books, including The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine, and his recent book, Lobbying for Israel on Both Sides of the Atlantic, is excellent. I don't remember if it's Lobbying for Israel or Lobbying for Zionism. Excellent. And so I'm going to play this interview. And by the way, we'll put a link to, I think we already have a link to the Congress, which people can still sign up to attend. I'll be speaking there. One of the organizers of this Congress is Haim Brashith Zabner, who's someone that we've interviewed in the past on the show, and also who's part of this documentary we're working on about Jewish Holocaust survivors speaking out against the Israeli genocide of the people of Gaza. So the people who are about to speak to are Dalia Sarig, who is co-founder of the initiative Not in Our Name, founded by Jews in Vienna, and a candidate on the Gaza list. Haim Brashith Zabner was professor of media and cultural studies at University of East London, and then a professorial research associate at the School of Oriental and African Studies, SOAS. He's a filmmaker, photographer, film studies scholar, historian. His films include A State of Danger, a documentary on the first Palestinian Intifada. His books include An Army Like No Other, How the Israel Defense Forces Made a Nation. He is the son of two Holocaust survivors and was raised in Israel, and he is a member of Holocaust Survivors and Descendants Against the Genocide and a founding member of Jewish Network for Palestine. On November 4th, Haim was arrested over a speech he gave at a pro-Palestine demonstration outside the residence of Israeli Ambassador Tzipi Hotoveli in North London. And Ronnie Barkin is an Israeli activist, a conscientious objector, and co-founder of Boycott from Within, a group of conscientious Israelis who support the Palestinian call for boycott, divestment, and sanctions, BDS, against Israel. He represented the Popular Struggle Coordination Committee at the European Parliament in Brussels, where he challenged EU institutional complicity in Israeli violations. So this interview starts off with me asking the participants how the idea came to them to host the First Jewish Anti-Zionist Congress.
October, we had a Palestine Congress in Vienna. And I was part of the organizers, and Hanin Zoabi, a former member of Knesset, was joining. And while the Congress was taking place, the representatives of the Jewish community in Vienna, they did a media campaign in the public transport saying that during the Congress, the Palestine Congress is taking place in Vienna, Jews don't feel safe. And I showed this to Hanin Zoabi, and she said, you know, why do you agree to let them speak on behalf of you? You are Jewish and you obviously feel safe. You have to do something. So then the idea of doing a Jewish Anti-Zionist Congress emerged.
So I think that this has had different cycles, the whole idea of a Jewish Anti-Zionist Congress, but it never materialized. And finally, the people in Vienna, picked it up and went along with that, and I was lucky to join them and bring in my own input, of course. I think that standing up to Zionism, and especially from among those that the Zionist state claims to speak on their behalf, this is crucial. In analogy to white folks who stood up against apartheid, and there were also many of them were active in the ANC and so on. So it is not about us Jews, those who are, it's not about Judaism per se, it's about standing up to the Zionist state that claims to speak on our behalf. And rather than that, we join forces with those who are oppressed, subjugated, and terrorized by Zionism in order to eventually stop and abolish Zionism.
There is also another aspect to it. What Ronnie said is true for us three and for many others behind the Congress. But many Jews are now in a quandary. Israel is speaking on their behalf and telling the world that this is what Jews want to do and support. There is nothing, more, there's no more of a lie than this. And even the Jews that are supporting know that what they are supporting is terrifying. So what is at stake is the very nature of Jewish life after this. Because if Zionism wins, humanity loses. And humanity failed the test of stopping a genocide 80 years after the last big genocide against Jews. So we can't allow these people to say, this is the voice of Judaism, because of two things. First of all, because then we separate ourselves from humanity, which is not something that anyone should do, least of all radical Jews. And secondly, what this will bring, what is already bringing, is anti-Semitism, of course. Anti-Semitism is now growing everywhere because people are saying this is what the Jewish state and the diaspora Jews are supporting. And they are right. So I don't think we can stand and watch while Israel is not only finishing off the Palestinians and international law and adding to the decline of the West, but actually also endangering the life of Jews everywhere.
Can each of you tell me a little bit about yourselves? I mean, I know, obviously, I've had you on the show before, Haim, but for people who are watching this and may not have seen the episodes that we've done with you, can each of you just tell me about where you're from and what your relationship with Zionism is?
Well, very briefly, I'm an Israeli Jew. I was born not in Palestine or Israel, whatever you want to call it, but I was born in a refugee camp in Europe after the Second World War. So that probably explains my state of mind when I come to look at Palestine and the Palestinian refugees in Gaza, which are now being butchered. For the last 55 years, I've been an anti-Zionist activist. So for me, this did not start on the 7th of October or in 1948 either. It started when I was a baby. And of course, it didn't even start in 1948. It started 1897. So yes, nothing is new and everything is new. This genocide like no other genocide, and I don't need to explain. And therefore, we must stand up as Jews, as Israelis, as human beings, as socialists, as nice guys, whatever you want. We are not going to take this.
Can you just briefly explain what your parents survived?
Both my parents survived 5 years in the ghetto. In the last 6 months, or 8 months actually, they were in Auschwitz. They come from the same town. They arrived in Auschwitz together. They left it, each of them, on a Fußmarsch to another country. My mother to Bergen-Belsen in Europe, my father to Gusen in Austria. They somehow managed to survive Auschwitz. No country wanted to offer them a place. They found themselves, and me, in a country they didn't want to be in Israel, that was 2 weeks old. My father refused to serve, was put in jail. They had to live in a place that didn't allow the first language, Yiddish, to be published and not even to be produced in the theater. So they had a very difficult time for the first few years in Israel, more than few years.
And what about you, Ronnie, and you, Dalia?
So I was born and raised in Palestine, also known as Israel. I was never too much of a Zionist, just a little bit, just a little bit indoctrinated, because there is a very strong indoctrination mechanism where basically children are being raised to be soldiers from kindergarten, I would say even before kindergarten. And but I did manage to come out of it. I was never too much of a nationalist, never too much of a Zionist. And still, it was a process. The moment that it clicked, the moment that I realized that my allegiance is not to something that is nationalistic and ultra-nationalistic and even worse in the case of Zionism, the moment that I realized that my allegiance is to something that is universal, the rest was very easy. I stopped being an Israeli. I stopped being a soldier also. I was a conscientious objector. And from that moment, obviously, I was on the side of Palestinians, because the situation, unlike what is being told to us in the media, it is far from being complicated. It is brutal. It is barbaric. It is monstrous at this point. None of it is complicated, however. So ever since I've been an activist, conscientious objector I mentioned, part of Anarchists Against the Wall, which went to demonstrate in the West Bank, co-founded a group of conscientious Israelis who support the Palestinian call for BDS. More recently have been active with Palestine Action in the UK. We went to smash up Elbit Systems headquarters there in Bristol, which I take pride in.
Congrats.
And even though I take pride in that, that didn't stop this genocide from happening. So exactly because I grew up there, because of the history of the family, the entire family, grandmother has been to Auschwitz, grandfather in Dachau, and so on. Exactly because of that legacy, it makes it even more important. We carry even more of a responsibility to stop whatever is happening, the monstrosity that is happening right now.
Yeah, my family history is different, because my family had to flee Austria in 1938, and they found refuge in Palestine. And most of the family didn't want to stay in Palestine. They went back in 1947. But my grandmother was married already, and she stayed in Palestine until 1955. So my mother was born in Haifa in 1948, in the midst of the Nakba. And my whole family was very Zionist, especially my grandmother and my mother and my uncle. And when I was 18 years old, I went to Palestine. Until it took me like 6 years to find out, to have a clicking moment. For me, it was I studied Arabic, and I was working for a peace center, Givat Habiba, from the leftist Zionists. And I met my teacher, my language teacher. He was Palestinian, and he explained me what happened to his family, that they had to leave their village and they found refuge in a neighboring village, and they were never allowed to come back. And those are stories that I never heard. This narrative had never been told to me. And then, I don't know, maybe because I knew how it is to be, how it feels to be a minority in Austria, because I left Austria 87, so during the 80s, there was still a lot of anti-Semitism to be felt in Austria, in Vienna, and a lot of people that took part in the Holocaust, they just continued to live there. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe because of this feeling or of this experience, it was easy for me to think about how he feels as a minority in his own land after all this happened to him. And I started a process and came out anti-Zionist. But I had to leave Palestine again in 2000 because I couldn't stay there anymore because I had this narrative, I carried this narrative, the Palestinian narrative, with me. And I just saw that the society is so much racist, and even if I was sitting in a coffee shop, listening to people talk on the next table, the talking was always very mostly racist, and I always had the impulse to say something. So it made it impossible for me to stay, and I left in 2000.
So tell us what this Congress is going to consist of. Who will be speaking, the themes, also the Palestinian voices that will be there?
It was very important for us to make it an open Congress. I mean, we will not talk about our Jewishness or what the identity issues that are not important to us. It's a Jewish Congress in the sense that all of us are Jewish, in the sense that the state of Israel is talking on our behalf, and we reject this. So we invited scholars, activists, Jewish, but and Palestinian, and also politicians. Let's start with Francesca Albanese, who will do a keynote speech on over Zoom. We have Arima Hassan, a politician and Palestinian from France. We have Ilan Pape, a long-time anti-Zionist scholar and activist as well. Rada Karmi, who will join us, herself Nakba survivor and a scholar dealing with anti-Zionism, of course, and being active. I mean, you're close friends, Haim and Rada, right? For many years, and Ilan as well. Yeah, and please add, who did I forget?
Well, there are many other people. Ronnie and I insisted when we joined the organizing committee is that we must include Palestinians. So this is Jewish in the sense that it is organized by Jews, but it is not a Jewish Congress in the sense that it's meant for Jews. It's meant for everyone. The people who are speaking come from a whole range of backgrounds. So there are half a dozen Palestinians of different experiences, human rights lawyers, academics, activists. For example, one of the speakers is Awad Abdel Fattah, who is the head of the One democratic state campaign. A number of people from the Jewish community in different countries, Wieland Oband from Germany, Iris Hefetz from Germany, two amazing activists, fighting the German state and its positions on both the IHRA and anti-Semitism and its virulent attacks on Palestinians. The Holocaust survivor Stephen Kaposh, Peter Eisenstein, who is the one of the two leaders of the New Left Party in Norway. The third day of the Congress is devoted to activism and activists. And to that day, we have invited the left-wing forces who support Palestine, because as we know, there are left-wing, so-called left-wing parties who support Israel, like Der Linke and others in Austria especially. So we are bringing together a forum of developing a united front, at least and in the first instance in Europe, but also, of course, yourself and others from the United States, like people from IJAN.
Lamistik, the lawyer, right? The Palestinian lawyer, Lamistik.
Yes. Lamistik and Ramzi Baroud.
Exactly. So people from all over the place, you can either talk about the continents they come from or the positions they represent. And unfortunately, we couldn't get Ronnie Kasrils from South Africa. He was the head of the military wing, indeed, of the ANC, and was a minister in the first government that Mandela put together. But he couldn't get a visa in time to be at the Congress. We would love to have him, but he is sending other people from the ANC to partake. So the third day is going to be very interesting because the academics, the lawyers and the activists will sit together and work on the future, and that would be marvelous. Thanks to you, this will be streamed in real time, and we are very appreciative of your generosity on this issue.
Yeah, of course.
And we forgot another voice from the US. You might know. Her name is Katie Halper.
Oh, yeah. Right. In the flesh, yeah. That's so cool that Ronnie Kasril was going. I mean, it's unfortunate the visa, but that's really quite a testament. Because where is he based now, Ronnie?
He's in South Africa, and he recorded a message for supporting the Congress, which is really lovely, and we're going to use it heavily. So he's totally supportive.
That's great. Yeah, we played some of that on the show the other day.
Wonderful.
I'm Ronnie Kasrils, and I've been involved in Palestine solidarity activity all my adult life. I was chief of military intelligence of the ANC's armed wing during the struggle, and following the freedom and democracy that we won in South Africa, I've been a minister in the Mandela government right through the Mbeki government, retired in 2008, and since then devote much of my time to Palestine solidarity. I must say I was greatly inspired when I learned of the upcoming Jewish Anti-Zionist Congress in Vienna in June. It's vital that anti-Zionist Jews stand by the Palestinian people. It's vital that anti-Zionist Jews liberate Judaism from Zionism. I saw this and learnt about this when I joined the struggle against apartheid, racism and capitalism supported by imperialism in South Africa of my youth, from 1960 with the Sharpeville massacre, and the parallels with Jews standing by Palestinians and for Palestinians and being involved with the struggle for the Palestinian rights to their homeland, their inalienable rights, reminded me so much of what I discovered and learnt in the struggle against white colonization in South Africa. Very, very similar aspects. One of which is that when the few whites stood up with black people in South Africa against apartheid, it proved to be a qualitative action because it exposed the lies and the mythology of racism, that all whites would stand together against the black peril. And of course, it also was transmitted through to the international community that the struggle to free South Africa was not simply a racist one. The same applies in terms of the decolonization of Palestine. And we see this any time one stands up, addresses a meeting, takes action, gets involved in protest demonstration in relation to the struggle of the Palestinian people, that if you're Jewish, it adds a certain extra element. People are greatly inspired and so on. We've experienced this and we've seen this. The question then of bringing together Jewish anti-Zionists from all over the world in such a Congress is of historic importance. And it's a project, of course, it's a work in progress. The organizers aren't claiming that they represent the final view and crystallization of what this is about, but it's a step towards the creation of now a political movement of anti-Zionist Jews involved with Palestinian people directly, as was the case with a few whites who were directly involved in the struggle to free South Africa. And that's why I find this coming Congress so compelling, and more especially at a time when the Zionist project, as it was from inception, is reaching its frenetic stage of finding its ultimate solution, and the seeds have always been within Zionism, of the eradication of what they would call the Palestinian question, to eradicate, to remove, to displace, to exterminate the Palestinian people so that they're no longer a problem for a so-called Jewish state, a Zionist state, in all its perfidy, which is why globally the majority of human beings are appalled at the genocide perpetrated by Zionist Israel against the Palestinian people, supported by the USA, supported by Britain, France, Germany, former colonial powers of Europe, and the treachery of Arab states. This Congress will work towards developing the unity of anti-Zionist Jews who are involved in many other movements, including BDS, and BDS is a vital element in the isolation of apartheid Israel. But the question of anti-Zionism is key, and a movement, a political movement against Zionism, anti-Zionism, led by Palestinians and anti-Zionist Jews, is a fantastic step forward. And this is what the Congress is about, and this is why I unequivocally endorse and support it, and call on everybody, not just Jewish people of goodwill, but everybody everywhere, to contribute funds to help make this Congress the success it deserves to be, because the funds are needed to help bring anti-Zionist Jews from all over the world to participate, and others, and to accommodate people, to feed them, to pay for rentals of halls and so on. We need the funds. The funds are the key element now as the organizers move in the last few weeks to convene this historic Congress. So help us to make this a success in the struggle to say no to Zionism, no to Israel, to stop Zionism in its tracks, to say no Pasuran, this fascism shall not pass, the Palestinian people will survive. In fact, their struggle will in the end be victorious, as was the case with the struggle of the people of South Africa, because of international support, because there were whites in South Africa, as there are Jews everywhere, who support the struggle of people against colonialism, against oppression. We're collecting funds here in South Africa. We will be sending Roshan Dadu, the convener actually of the BDS movement in South Africa, to represent us. Her father was the chairperson of the South African Communist Party, Yusuf Dadu. Her mother was very active, and she happened to be Jewish.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I had on two guests from South Africa, Tony Karen and Sean Jacobs, but it was a really great conversation. And we got into what the lessons were for Palestine, like the limits of the lessons and the actual lessons that can be applied. Speaking of which, what are the things that you guys are working on towards Palestinian liberation, towards a one-state solution? And that is going to have to be something that you guys are left in suspense about. We will be releasing that full interview, part 2 of that interview, which is really great, on Patreon. That's at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. But hopefully you will want to learn more about this Congress. If you're in the area of Vienna, please do come. There are going to be amazing speakers there, including several amazing Palestinian speakers. And I think that's all I have to say. So you can do that at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. We are going to be traveling because we're going to Detroit to attend the memorial of the amazing Renee Lichtman, who sadly died this winter. He is one of the amazing characters we follow around in this documentary. You've seen our interview with him on this show. Extremely brave person who basically started protesting the very Holocaust museum he used to lecture at because they refused to talk about Gaza. And that will be this Sunday. And then we are going to Vienna for this Congress. But we will be giving our Patreon subscribers little behind the scenes videos and behind the scenes photos from our travels. And also we'll be, of course, playing some really great pre-taped interviews. And there'll be great stuff for both Patreon supporters and non-Patreon supporters. The Congress is June 13th to 15th. We're trying to make it work. Brad, are we going to be able to, what do we want to say to people? You want to switch your audio settings? Sorry, this is for Brad. Should I explain to you why?
Sorry about my audio settings. I promise it'll be better next time.
Oh no, I'm just joking about having the mic set to your headphones.
I know, but
Yeah.
that cuts too deep for me, Katie.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
A little too close to home. I'm sorry. So what was your question?
Anything else we want to, if people are going to be able to watch it, we're hoping that we're going to be able to stream it on the channel, on this channel.
Yeah. We've been doing our best to prepare for this, and there's, as you can imagine, a lot of moving parts, especially when it's being coordinated across continents. So some of the answers to that, I think, are yet to be determined, but obviously that's the plan. And so I guess we'll just have to keep everyone updated as we know more.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Great. But yeah, we will definitely make sure you come to we're going to be having weekly shows for the next 2 weeks. We're also going to be having.
Is Bucky on your lap right now?
No, let me grab him. You want me to grab him?
I mean, this is the last time for 2 weeks.
You're right.
Then.
Okay,
Yeah.
Brad, you have to entertain people. I do that. Okay.
I have to entertain people. Are you not entertained? No, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a lot of work. I just got a message encouraging me to take my shirt off, and no, the people don't want that. No, this is what we want. Oh, oh my gosh.
Look at that cute little baby boy.
Oh, and his comically large bow tie.
I know, it's too big for him. He doesn't look distinguished anymore. My friend Elaine gave him.
It's a fine line between distinguished and comical.
Right. So Elaine gave him a great bow tie that he wore like every day. That's plaid. Then she gave him this one, but it's just too big. It goes to the side. It's kind of cute and jaunty. Is he? What is that? Oh, he like was eating a toy.
Yeah, he loves to demolish toys.
Brad's his uncle. Yeah, Brad is one. There are like 3 people I would let babysit Bucky.
And I am two. And I am 2 of them.
And Brad is one of them. Yeah. Where is his little thing? Where did that go? Anyway, he's just not great with dogs. He's very great with people, though. He just like sits on their laps if we go into a cafe. Anyway, all right. Well, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Brad, so much. Thank you, Nate, so much. Thank you, Fantamus Fanta. Thank you, all of our guests. Thank you, Bucky, for being so cute. Thank you, Andrew. I think that's about it. Yep. And thank you to all of our guests. And and if I weren't going to speak at this Congress, I would go to the Gaza march. And if we were just to speak, I would say, okay, well, I'll skip out on the speaking engagement. But the truth is, I really want to see the characters in our film.
Right.
2 of
And
whom
I think, it seems to me like it's shaping up to be a very big deal.
A historic thing. Yeah,
very important. So we will keep everyone.
Can you keep my name down so we can see more of his paws? Like hide the names. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Yep, this is the IMAX like full aspect ratio.
Yeah. Oh my God, Randy Credico also has a cute dog. Yeah, Sophia, she's so cute. Bianca was really cute, and Sophia is so cute. Sophia is like the nicest too. Anyway, well, okay. Thank you again all so much, and we will see you. Well, maybe we'll post little things, right? Like little just videos that from what we're doing.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'm down.